Good morning, girls. Semester 2 Communication Skills, Miss Aisha Yusuf. The topic for today's lesson number 3 is non-verbal communication. Definition of non-verbal communication. What is non-verbal communication? Now, communication without the use of words is called as non-verbal communication. This includes eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, postures, and the distance between two individuals. Yes, now when we reflect, every day we are engaging ourselves in both verbal and non-verbal communication. Yes, throughout, even in this period of quarantine, we are speaking to our family members, and we are also expressing non-verbal communication, for example by shaking hands, and even expressing our boredom through our body as well. So both verbal and non-verbal communication, they merge with each other to communicate our thoughts, ideas and feelings to the world. And girls, remember that whereas your communication skills in language, the 4 communication skills of language, that is listening, speaking, writing and reading, are very important, but your non-verbal communication is equally important. In fact, research estimates that 55% of what we say depends on the way we say it, how we are looking, our postures, and the image that we are giving others. It helps in forming the opinion or reinforcing or contradicting what we are saying from our own mouth. Now, there are many different types of non-verbal communication. In fact, it is a very interesting field of research in itself, and it also differs from culture to culture. Now, just let's have a look at the different forms of non-verbal communication which we are engaging in our everyday lives. Number 1, ways of talking. Yes, we pay attention to the pauses when somebody is speaking to us, and we immediately understand that a pause during a conversation means that either the person has stopped to think something, or he is about to utter something very important, or something which is supposed to be kept as a secret. Then the stress on words clearly tells us, for example, a very emphatic no is a clear way of telling someone that no means no. Now, the posture. Now, we all recognize posture. Confident body, when you are straight, when you are walking, it denotes confidence. On the other hand, if somebody is slouching, then immediately we know that the person is depressed or inconfident. Now, appearance. Now, when somebody is shabbily dressed, it immediately gives an impression that he or she is disorganized, or doesn't know what to do with his or her life. On the other hand, a very well-dressed person clearly gives the message that he or she is in control of his or her life. Now, we all recognize head movements. Nodding means yes, right? And when we shake our head, it clearly means no. So all these are very commonly used. The hand movements, again, waving, or asking somebody to come to a certain place by using the hand. The eye movements, again, you wink, or you are whether you are paying attention to somebody when somebody is speaking, and if your eyes they stray from face of the speaker, that is a clear indication which everyone recognizes that he or she or the listener is not paying attention. Then the facial expressions. Now, we all recognize facial expressions, and as a matter of fact, the babies are very quick to recognize the facial expressions, like frown, like smiles, and whether you are happy or whether you are sad. Now, body contact, such as shaking hands. Now, if we meet somebody and somebody gives us a very loose handshake, we immediately recognize that that person doesn't mean it from his or her heart. While somebody gives us a very warm handshake, we immediately recognize that it comes from the bottom of the heart and it has a different impact. Then closeness. Now, this is very important. We do it sometimes subconsciously as well. We must have noticed that two people who are friends together, they are often seen very close together, sitting with each other, whether it's in the cafeteria or maybe on the college bench. But God forbid, if they have a fight, then you must have noticed that they are seen sitting apart. So the degree of closeness or the space that is between two people is also an indication of the nature of their relationship. Now, sounds. We all recognize sounds, sounds of laughter, sounds that reflect certain moods, and especially they are used in literature and poetry. So, non-verbal communication plays a very important role in understanding the attitude of the participants. People who are working in professional organizations, they are given special training to help them understand other people's non-verbal communication, which is also called as body language, or another name is silent language. And since it is important, they are also trained, especially people in the hospitality service, to watch out for their own cues that they are giving to their clients or their customers, so as to make their work more efficient. And thus we have the very common English saying that actions speak louder than words. Now just think about it. Now these postures, these are very commonly seen postures. We've seen bosses make this postures of arm akimbo. We've seen teachers make this, the principal make this. We've seen the policeman makes it. So this actually is a body language which researchers say that the person is trying to establish their dominance over other people. Now, arms behind the back says that this person is in control. He doesn't want people to mess with him. Now, in your exams, you may be asked to list a few points regarding the importance of non-verbal communication. So, number one, it repeats the message your words are saying. For example, if somebody asks you whether you want to have tea, and you say yes, and you also at the same time nod your head, then it makes it even more clearer to the questioner that you want to have a cup of tea. Now, it may also be used to contradict what your words are saying, and people who are into public communication should be very careful of that. For example, if there is a speaker who is delivering a speech on bravery, and he is evidently nervous, is shaking, then definitely the audience would not listen seriously to what he is saying. It can also be used as a substitution for your verbal message. Now, there are certain instances when you cannot use your voice effectively. For example, if somebody is very far or in a cricket match, and you must have often seen that the umpire uses manual signs, that is non-verbal communication, to tell everybody whether he declares this as a no ball, the person is out, or so many other different messages that he wants to give. Now, ads. to the meaning of your message. Now, for example, there's a politician, and he is delivering a speech in an election campaign, and he is raising the hands and waving and shaking to the crowd. So this adds to the meaning and the communication he's trying to establish between himself and the people who are present in a public gathering. Non-verbal communication can also be used to emphasize or make the message stronger. For example, if there's a person sitting on a desk, and the person wants to make it very clear that what he is saying, he means it, he might say no and also pound his fist on the table, which gives even an additional message to the person in front of him that he means no. Now, remember that non-verbal communication is both intentional and unintentional. Verbal communication, though we can be careless in speaking, that is possible, but it is intentional. We open our mouth and we speak, we know that we are speaking. But non-verbal, sometimes we are not intentionally showing the other person our intentions, but it is communicated. It is perhaps the oldest form of communication known to man. Long before the first words were spoken or the first grunts uttered, man communicated with others through non-verbals. When early man became aggressive, he communicated it to others through his body language. He expressed his fear through the same channel. Now, what are the different kinds of non-verbal communication? Number one, aesthetic communication. Aesthetic communication is a broad term in which expression of body through dance, through craft, through ballet, then through thoughts by painting and sculpture. All these forms of communication which appeal to the senses are put in under the broad term aesthetic communication. Now, the physical communication, it includes body language, which is called as kinesics, and facial expressions. Body language includes gestures. Now, you must remember that these physical communication is done through the organs of the body. Now, basically, for example, just in the previous slides, we discussed how we can communicate signs in the cricket field through our hands. But this is a secondary function. The main biological function of a hand is to work for us, through which we eat food and we move and we pick up things. So basically, this is an additional function that is being performed by our body organs to communicate thoughts, ideas, and feelings. Now, another kind of communication is which is done through sight, and it is called as visual communication. It includes facial expressions, gestures, eye contact, signals, map, chart, posters. It also includes graphic design, illustrations, and animations, books, print, magazine, interactive web design, design for advertising, promotion, billboards, corporate identity, logos, packaging designs. And another is audiovisual, that is short films, videos, and movies can be included in this category. Now, another kind of non-verbal communication which are commonly used are the signs and the symbols. Signs are a more mechanical kind of non-verbal communication, such as the 21 gun, salute, and the lights, etc. Symbols are used for personal, social, or religious reasons. Now, in common use, the words signs and symbols are often used interchangeably. Signs and symbols are language-free graphics that are used to refer to something or give directions. Now, this emboldened sentence can be used as a definition of signs and symbols. Now, they are, in everyday life we use them interchangeably, but we must remember that as a general rule, जो signs होते हैं, they are more simple. For example, the traffic light signs. They are simple. We know red means stop, yellow means wait, green means go. uh, Simple arrow sign hai, this is the bathroom sign, no parking sign, no horn, and no mobiles, etc., etc. Now on the other hand, symbols are more deeper in meaning. They have a more philosophical uh, you know um, aspect attached to them. And the more that you do researches, we'll see that symbolism is, sometimes is very intriguing, sometimes it's very open to the world, sometimes it is hidden symbols are used. So it's really a very interesting area of research and study as well. Now, different types of signs can be divided into: number one, the information signs, which are usually arrow signs to show direction, point to services available. And then direction sign, for example, they tell you to stop, uh, uh, and that is in the traffic lights. Then the safety signs, warning signs, which are usually in yellow background with black picture. If there's some construction work going on, the road is being repaired, etc. The commercial signs, they tell you about businesses, products, etc. The manual signs are made by the hand, and we just discussed a few. Natural signs, thunder, which is a sign of storm. Conventional signs have a standard interpretation. Full stop represents the end of a sentence, and so we have so many punctuation marks. These are the conventional signs that we use while writing. Now again, the visual representation of the signs, and the M sign, which now this is a simple M, but the children, they automatically recognize whenever they see this kind of an M, it means McDonald's is here and they want to have a burger. And obviously this is no smoking sign, this is the no U-turn sign, this is the first aid sign, this is the fire exit sign, and there are so many other signs that we come across on the roads daily. Now, symbols. A symbol stands for an other thing and usually holds a deeper and abstract meaning. In other words, it can be complex in its interpretation. One symbol may also have more than one meaning. Symbols can be made with the hand or represented through artwork or even words. Now, the word abstract means something which is not concrete, which is not visible or can be perceived by the senses. It has to be understood. I'll give you an example of a very commonly seen symbol in the courts, that of Lady Justice. Now, the Lady Justice, she is supposed to be placed in most of the courts, and she's an international symbol of justice. Now, if you just see a picture of her, she is actually a lady and she's blindfolded and she is weighing the scales in her hands. Now, when I describe this posture of hers to my students, they are always very curious, and they ask me that, ma'am, what does it mean? Now, for people who do not know exactly in what context this symbolic statue is made, they will be puzzled. Now, let me explain. When somebody is making a judgment, it is the professional requirement that the judge should be unbiased towards any of the people involved in a dispute. He or she should weigh the facts and should do justice. Somebody who is innocent should not be punished, should be set free. Somebody who is guilty should be punished. And while making this judgment, Lady Justice is blindfolded, which is symbolic of the fact that the judge should be blind to the socioeconomic standing of any persons involved in a dispute. ये नहीं है कि if somebody is very rich, तो the rules are changed for him, and if somebody is poor, then the rules are different. So, as a matter of professionalism, the judge should be blind to all these factors, such as the wealth of the person or the benefit that even the judge can derive by setting him free. Sometimes symbols may have more than one meaning, um, and usually that is sometimes groups, they have made a symbol for themselves, and it's only the meaning is shared by that group as well. So symbols are really, they have a philosophical aspect attached to them, and it's an area of research and study in itself as well. Now, interestingly, we have a lot of international symbols that include dove. Now, dove, जिसको फाख्ता भी कहते हैं, अमन की फाख्ता, is a symbol of peace. Now, it's a very beautiful bird, and it's white in color. Now, recently, since many years, I've been seeing that there's this tradition of in our society that candles are lit to publicly remember people, like people who have died in a terrorist incident or something. So this is also, lighting candles means symbolic. They're trying to remember. They are trying to light again, bring to light the memory of those people who died in that unfortunate terrorist attack. Then, as we know that internationally throughout the world, we know lion is a symbol of courage, and we use the word lion-hearted in our expressions. Flowers, they symbolize beauty, and rose is a symbol of beauty. It's a universal symbol. Hearts are a universal symbol of love. Now, there are different types of symbols. We have the national symbols, like flag. It symbolizes a nation and its ideology. Each nation of the world has a flag of its own, and it is symbolic of the ideology of that nation. Now, we can take the example of the Pakistani flag. It is made up of two colors. The smaller portion is white, which symbolizes the minority non-Muslim population. The green color symbolizes the majority Muslim population. The crescent on the flag symbolizes our religion, Islam, and as you know, in Islam we have the lunar months. हमारे कमरी महीने चलते हैं. And the star symbolizes again the religion. The 5 points on the star, they are symbolic of the 5 pillars of Islam. Then monuments, they also symbolize a nation's historical legacy. For example, the Minar-e-Pakistan. Now, the Minar-e-Pakistan, it's just not a minar. Do you know what it symbolizes? It symbolizes the Pakistan resolution, the resolution of the Muslim League and the Muslims of India to struggle for an independent Islamic state. It symbolizes the Pakistan resolution of 23rd March 1940. And the famous Statue of Liberty. Now, this lady can be seen holding a torch. Do you know what this torch symbolizes? This torch symbolizes the torch of democracy, and through this torch of democracy, she is giving light to the whole world. Then military symbols. Every nation has its own distinct military symbols. In Pakistan, the highest military symbol is the Nishan-e-Haider. Then we have got the Tamgha-e-Jurrat and some other also military symbols which boost the morale of those citizens who are willing to sacrifice for the uplift of their nation. They boost the morale of the soldiers. Now, also in religion, we have many symbols. The star and the crescent are universally recognized symbol of Islam. They represent faith in Allah. Similarly, other religions also have their distinct symbols. For example, the cross in Christianity and so many others. The Jews, they often use the Star of David. Now, colors are also symbolic of certain things. Red symbolizes activity and passion. Green symbolizes calm and healing. White symbolizes cleanliness and purity. Now, then they have symbols of wealth as well. So you see, it's a really we often, somebody who steps out of a very expensive car, we immediately arrive at the conclusion that he or she is rich, and immediately we start respecting. Somebody is using a very expensive iPhone, we immediately are impressed that he or she is very rich. So again, we have the status symbols as well, and the personal symbols as well. Certain things can have very symbolic value for a certain person. Doesn't really have to be something very expensive. It can be expensive, it can be cheap as well. But for example, I have a locket, and it's very personally, it is symbolic of my grandmother's memory or anything like that. All right, now we also use symbols on computers. For example, we use the symbol at in our email address. Then you see in the different brands also use logos, and it helps the customers to immediately recognize, and others to see that this is Gucci, this is Gul Ahmed, etc., etc. All right, so girls, I hope that you have formed some basic concepts about the different types of communication. Now, in the next lecture, we will be studying barriers in effective communication.